Chairman Mike, the last time we chatted, it was one day before the Connah's Quay game. Here we are, 2 or 3 days after it. 1-1 draw in the end. You saw the match. What were your thoughts as the chairman?
I thought difficult conditions. From what I saw, first half, definitely there was only one team in the game. Second half was still really the balance of the game was definitely in our club's favour. I didn't see a lot of football coming out of Connah's Quay, which was a bit disappointing considering the amount of money that they're spending and obviously the tactics that they use. Very disappointing to see that our players were commonly assaulted, and at the moment probably very disappointing to see that there was intentional elbows to the face, which, if that happened in Civvy Street, you'd be probably charged with common assault. It isn't good for the game. I mean, obviously Craig has got a lot of experience in how to play football. I'm surprised that's not starting to come through. He's been there now quite a while, alongside Andy, and I think if I was their chairman, I'd be disappointed that they're still playing this sort of hoofball style, hoop it up and bully everybody off the ball, which doesn't really work with our players. We can stand up to it. No, it's not right for me to comment too much on it, but for a football spectacle, let's put it down to the fact that it wasn't particularly good conditions. So let's hope that when we play them next time, there'll be a bit more football in them.
It is a grass pitch, of course, and it is generally in good condition, but with the rain that we had on that day in particular, it was quite soft. But I think the way that the players, the TNS players, approach the game, it shows the versatility, Mike, in the squad, that perhaps playing 1 week on a 3G surface, the next on a grass pitch that's quite soft due to the rain. You must be pleased with the players and the adaptability that they
absolutely. It's difficult conditions. I've never been one to blame whatever pitch it is. People want to take plastic pitches or grass pitches. It's football. When you play World Cups, you get perfect pitches and perfect weather conditions. Obviously, we play football through the winter in the UK, and pitches do have trouble standing up to those conditions. It's expensive to do, but we wouldn't be complaining about the pitch. Sometimes I'd have a little dig if somebody hasn't bothered to cut the grass, which is there's no excusing that. But ultimately, the weather conditions on Friday night were not the best for playing football in. But if you look at the quality that we had on the pitch and how we played the ball around, it didn't really detract from the there was definitely a clear gulf of difference between what was played on the pitch in terms of what I call football, and I think that other teams are actually catching on to that strategy as well, and it'll be interesting to see how Connah's Quay do against Barry, who again Barry are a more of a footballing team, and look at that game with great interest next week, because to us it doesn't really matter who wins. Everything's still in our own hands. We're looking forward, obviously, playing both those teams 3 more times during the course of this season, provided we make the top half of the cut. So everything will sort of look to take care of itself. Very encouraged that all our players are back from injury, and I'm pleased that nobody came away with anything serious from the other night, where I do think that there was a challenge on Mazza which could have left him in hospital, and obviously the elbow to the face, which was disgraceful. Again, could have broken somebody's cheekbone, broken their nose. We're talking about guys' careers here. They do this to pay for their families. It's sports a dangerous enough thing where you get honest, good, old-fashioned challenges and somebody gets hurt. But these were not challenges to do with the ball being there. These were challenges which were meant to hurt the players, which I think should be taken out of the game.
And we went into the fixture without Blaine Hudson, of course. That was going to be a big blow. But as Scott said in his post-match interview, he literally went through the starting lineup, praising the players and their commitment and the way they gelled together. And although, of course, we would miss Blaine, nevertheless, it's true to say that, again, back to that flexibility, the adaptability that we have in the squad, the players, especially in that back four, worked well together.
Very much so. We got a squad of players, and the young players that are coming through, You can see the enthusiasm for the game is high. They've obviously recruited well, and going forward, they will be going to further leaps and ahead. And the yardstick is always the end of the season. The only day that I worry about being top of the league is the last game of the season, which is where it really counts. Everything beforehand is part of the competitiveness of football, and good that this league is coming on. And I think one of the biggest challenges I think will be posed to the league will be Carnarvon. I really do see them as a tough team to beat. They're quite clever. They've got some quality in there, and they've got pace. I would suspect one or two of their players could be having been looked at by one or two teams outside the Welsh Premier League, and they've got themselves very well organised there. And again, I think Barry is going to be a tough outfit, and they're going to be there competing. Connah's Quay could go one of two ways. I think they would like to adapt the way that they play and bring more adventurous, skillful football into it. But I suppose they've got to look at the age and types of players that they've signed. And I think that the end of the season would be rather interesting to see who is there at the top. But I think that it could be a 4-horse race for the title this year, as I alluded to before the game. And I do see that if Carnarvon keep those performances up, which I've seen this season, they could be one of the more difficult teams to stop.
Well, it's certainly very tight at the top. We're into the second third of the league, and the three teams at the very pinnacle, the New Saints, Connah's Quay and Barrytown United, just 1 point separating them, and then lurking just behind, certainly within spitting distance, is Carnarvon Town. And then you start to drop down the league, Mike, and you look at the Ballas, the Kevin Druids, Aberystwyth are on a great run at the moment, Cardiff Met. There is some real quality throughout the JD Cymru Premier this season.
Absolutely, and I think that as teams, the difference in some of the teams now is just consistency. Take with Aber, they were they've had mixed fortunes this season, but on their day they're playing extremely good football, but on a different day they haven't turned up. And I think that the teams that will be successful as the league continues to go forwards are the ones that can iron out those off days and grind them an off day into a draw rather than a defeat. And you can't take your mind and focus off Bala, because I was very impressed with the strength and skill that they also had in their team. They were very, very competitive, and I think that they also will be more than likely to enter the hunt, and who knows where any of those teams will end up at the end of the season. So there's a lot of games to go yet. There's a lot of going to be a lot more debate. There's going to be a lot more excitement, I'm sure. But I'm encouraged the way that we're obviously having to rebuild our team out, and obviously a lot of our players have reached that well past 30 years of age, and it is a difficult situation to start transforming those new players in. But as you can see, they've had 2 or 3 months of bedding in, we've got some great performances now coming out from those younger guys. Look at Joe Ash, in central midfield, very strong, very quick, and those type of players who are actually stronger, fitter and quicker than the guys who normally would try and play the bullying game. When you've got quality as well, and they're bigger and stronger, the bullying doesn't work.
And we've also got players like Connor Roberts and Adam Hughes, both on loan at Aberystwyth at the moment, and no doubt contributing to the success of the Seasiders. And we interviewed Adam Hughes just this morning at Park Hall prior to training. He scored his first goal for them on the weekend. They won 5-1 at Airbus UK Broughton, and of course that's the same team that lost 10-1 to the New Saints. So when you talk about consistency, Mike, it's also across the board as well. The New Saints has come through a difficult period, but in the last 4 games in the top flight, we are the most consistent in-form team. And that's something, as you've said, that teams have to iron out, have to build on. And that includes TNS as well as other sides as well.
I mean, again, we've come through that period now where we had a few injuries, and that obviously takes its toll. We've been in training since the 1st of June, and at the end of the day, yes, it's their job, but these are fit lads, they want to play, and as everyone knows, the business end of the league doesn't start until the last 10 games, and for the league to progress, we needed competition, which is great, and I'd look forward to either being on the shoulder of whoever is around the top of the league at the turning point, and so that in those last 10 games, that's when it really counts. Each week then is a 6-pointer, because I think that we could have this year, for the first time, where all 6 teams could win the title, whoever goes and gets in that cut. And perhaps I'm speaking a little early, but I'd like to hope that we would make the cut and be in the top 6. But ultimately, I think that you could draw a straw from Bala, Carnarvon, Barrytown, and even Connors Quay to be putting in a charge for the title. But I do have my own personal opinion on the league. I'll write it on a piece of paper and give it you. But I don't think that the league pundits will probably have quite the same names in the positions that I've got them.
Mike, I'm going to ask you a question now. It is one that's often bandied around Welsh footballing circles. The fans talk about it constantly. It's the number of teams in the league at the moment, and we have done for a number of seasons, of course. We have 12 sides. Are you one of those that would like to see the league expanded, or even perhaps down to a smaller number of teams?
Right, there's 2 answers to this, and you're going to say, oh, what's that? The difficulty the league has is underfunded. So being underfunded means that the quality for the league, if it expands, would be more would probably drop, because the good players that are out there are in limited numbers, and those numbers then would be stretched over a while. So in the purest words, I'd love to see the league expand, but in reality, I'd like to see a league that was fully funded so that every team could train daily and improve the league overall. So, and I don't think that can be done by expanding the league at this point in time, because the sponsors aren't there, the TV deals aren't there. There's a school of thought that says if it was cut down even smaller, but would have to be done where each club is backed to the tune of 300,000 to 400,000, with the stipulation that they must be a full-time club. Now that would also push the quality of the league up, and yes, it probably becomes a less interest to the general fan, and we have to take it on the chin and say, well, at the end of the day, it's a game for fans. It is for the people, but for the football, it is about how well you do in Europe at the end of it. So there's a bit of a balance, and at the moment, I can't see how growing the league in number of clubs will help the performances on that pitch. But as someone who really enjoys the spectacle game, it would be lovely to have an 18-club league. But I think if we do that, we'd find back to poor pitches. We'd also find that the dilution of talent would happen, and I think the game would go backwards. With where the 12 are at the moment, if you look at it from a 12-club perspective, yes, we're still underfunded. So there isn't enough money to go around for everybody. But I do think the chief executive of the Football Association should be out there putting together a television deal, should be looking for sponsorship and bringing a professionalism to the league, where the clubs then can enjoy that extra revenue. And that is a task for the FAW and the chief exec, and I think he should be tasked to do that. And I'm not saying it's easy either, but it should be done. But I think if you look at the competition, when it does split in half, you go, the top 6 have all got European places to play for. Even within the bottom half, there's a European place chance to be played for, and we avoid relegation. So there is no opportunities for teams to have a go and then decide to pull the money like the good old days, knowing that they've got enough points on the board not to get relegated. And that makes a bad league, because it depends then. Other clubs get affected by that because they may be playing a club who were competitive in October, but by the time February comes along, they pull the budget. So that is something I definitely don't agree with, just for the sake of expanding the league. But a properly funded, expanded league would be lovely. But in reality, I can't see that coming any day soon.
And finally, Mike, you've paid credit to the other sides in the JD Cymru Premier, how the league is growing and increasing in quality over time. What about you as chairman of the New Saints? Obviously, the other clubs are improving, we can see that. So what are your plans to then make sure that the New Saints stays one step ahead?
We're already well into that plan at the moment, and we'll start rolling it out soon. But obviously, I'm not going to disclose that to your interviews at the moment, because I want to make sure that we have as long a competitive advantage as we can from what we're going to do. And as I said, I've always liked to think that we've been first to do everything and let others play catch up. Yeah, we've been first with 3G pitches. I think we were first to structure what is a near-on professional academy system. We were first to bring in measurements and and deploying fitness and coaching to athletic standards. So all those things which we like to think that we are the first to do, there'll be some new firsts coming out very soon.
Well, Mike, as always, thank you for your time today. It's always a pleasure to chat. And you've left us at the end with something to look forward to.
You are sure? Well, you'll see it soon.